The morning the city prepared to bury Eliza Harrow, the sky wore a clean, polished blue that felt almost insulting. For a woman said to be gone, the world seemed too eager to keep breathing. Black cars lined the avenue outside the Harrow Memorial Chapel, their doors opening and closing with soft, respectful thuds. Security guards stood like statues, earpieces tucked in, eyes scanning a crowd that was more curious than mournful. News vans hovered at the edges, their antennas pointed toward the sky, hungry for a final image of the billionaire, philanthropist whose name crowned hospitals, schools, and entire neighborhoods. Inside, the chapel glowed with restrained elegance. White lilies filled the air with a sweetness that made throats tighten. A closed casket rested at the front, polished to a mirror shine, draped with a simple silk cloth embroidered with Eliza's initials. The choice of a closed casket had been explained away as modesty. Eliza Harrow, the woman who gave away fortunes quietly and lived with careful restraint, would not have wanted a spectacle, they said. No one questioned it. Not the board members who owed her careers to her vision. Not the distant relatives who had flown in first class. Not the lawyers who had already begun whispering about trusts and foundations. Eliza had collapsed at her estate 3 days earlier, the official report said. A sudden medical event, swift, painless, final. Rowan Hale stood in the back, cap in hand, the brim bent from years of use. His uniform smelled faintly of soap and metal and the city's early morning. He did not belong here, and everyone could tell. The security guard near the door had eyed him twice, but Rowan had a folded invitation in his pocket, retrieved from a trash bin behind a law office downtown. It bore no name, just a time and place embossed and expensive. He had come anyway. Rowan had been a garbage collector for 12 years. He knew the city the way surgeons know arteries, the way librarians know spines. He knew what people threw away and what they kept hidden until the last possible moment. He also knew Eliza Harrow, though she had never known him. Not by name, at least. 2 months earlier, on a rain-heavy dawn, Rowan had found her sitting on the curb behind the old textile warehouses, soaked and shivering, her hair pulled into a tight knot, her coat too thin for the weather. She had asked him for water, her voice calm but strained, as if she were measuring every breath. He had given her his thermos and half a sandwich. She had smiled at him, a small, grateful smile that reached her eyes. They talked for 10 minutes. About the city, about how it changes, about how people forget what matters when they have too much of everything. She had asked his name. He had asked hers. She said simply, Eliza. When his truck had rumbled back to life, she had stood and thanked him again. Before leaving, she had pressed a folded piece of paper into his hand. If anything happens, she had said, promise me you'll remember this. He had laughed then, awkward and unsure, and tucked the paper into his pocket. When he got home, he unfolded it. It was an address, and beneath it, in careful handwriting, not everything buried is dead. Now standing in the chapel as a violinist played something soft and aching, Rowan's fingers tightened around the brim of his cap. The memory of Eliza's eyes, alert, alive, burdened with something heavy, burned bright. This funeral felt wrong. Too fast, too neat. The officiant stepped forward, voice steady, words practiced. He spoke of Eliza's generosity, her vision, her legacy. He spoke of an ending. Rowan's heart pounded. He thought of the address. He thought of the words. He thought of the way Eliza had looked over her shoulder that morning by the warehouses, as if expecting someone to be there. As the officiant invited the attendees to stand for the final blessing, Rowan moved. Stop, he said. The word cracked through the chapel like a dropped plate. Every head turned. Security shifted. A murmur rose, offended and confused. Sir, a guard began, stepping toward him. She's not dead, Rowan said, louder now. His voice shook, but it held. Eliza Harrow is not dead. Gasps rippled through the room. A man in the front row scoffed. A woman covered her mouth. Cameras whirred to life. The officiant raised a hand, flustered. This is highly inappropriate. Rowan walked forward, stopping just short of the casket. I met her, he said. 2 months ago. She knew this was coming. She told me to remember. And I remember. A tall man in a dark suit stood abruptly. Victor Harrow, Eliza's nephew, his jaw tight. This is a stunt, he snapped. Remove him. Rowan reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded paper. He held it up. She gave me this, he said. An address. And a message. I went there yesterday. The room fell into a hush. I found a basement apartment. Rowan continued. Empty except for medical equipment, documents, and a recorded message. From Eliza. She said if anyone tried to bury her before the truth came out, I should stop them. Right here, right now. Security hesitated. The cameras leaned in. Victor's face had gone pale. He's lying, he said too quickly. Rowan looked at the casket. Open it, he said. Outrage erupted. But something else moved beneath it, doubt. After a long, terrible pause, the officiant nodded once. The casket was opened. It was empty. The silence that followed was not quiet. It roared, shouts, questions, the scrape of shoes against marble as people surged forward and back. Security scrambled. Someone fainted. A reporter shouted into a phone. Victor Harrow stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing like a door caught in the wind. Rowan stepped back, heart racing. He had known this would happen. He had not known it would feel like standing at the edge of a cliff. Within minutes, the chapel was locked down. Police arrived. Lawyers appeared as if summoned by the chaos itself. Rowan was escorted to a side room, not roughly but firmly. He sat at a long table under harsh lights, his cap placed neatly beside him, and waited. 2 detectives questioned him first. Then a woman from the district attorney's office. Rowan told the same story each time, slowly, carefully. About the rainy morning. The address. The basement apartment. The recorded message. Do you have it? The DA asked. Rowan nodded. It's with the police, she said to make sure it went public. The message, when it was played hours later in a press room packed with cameras and disbelief, changed everything. Eliza Harrow appeared on the screen, seated, calm, very much alive. She explained in clear and measured words that she had discovered a conspiracy within her own foundation. Money siphoned, projects sabotaged, lives endangered. When she confronted those responsible, the threats began. Subtle at first, then unmistakable. I realized, Eliza said, that the only way to see who would profit from my death was to let them believe it had happened. She described the plan: a staged medical emergency, a compliant private clinic, a small circle of trusted professionals, a closed casket, and one wild card. I needed someone outside my world, she said. Someone no one would think to watch. Someone who sees what others throw away. The camera cut to Rowan in the side room, his eyes wide, his life tilting on its axis. Within days, arrests followed. Victor Harrow was taken into custody, along with 2 board members and a financial advisor. Evidence poured out, emails, transfers, false reports. The story dominated every channel. The garbage collector who stopped a billionaire's funeral became a headline. A symbol, a question mark. Eliza reappeared a week later, walking into a press conference without fanfare. She looked thinner but stronger. When asked why she chose Rowan, she smiled softly. Because he listened, she said, and because he helped me when he thought I was no one. Rowan did not seek the spotlight. He returned to work after a short leave, though his route changed often now, and people waved. Eliza visited him once early and quiet at the depot. She thanked him again. This time she said his name. I'm not a hero, Rowan told her. She shook her head. Neither am I, but sometimes doing the right thing looks like stopping the wrong one. The city moved on, as cities do, but something had shifted just enough. People remembered the empty casket, the man in the uniform, the truth that refused to stay buried, and Rowan kept the paper Eliza had given him, now framed on his wall. Not everything buried is dead. He looked at it every morning before work, a reminder that even in the places where the world discards its stories, some truths are waiting to be found.